Hi, Brennan. Welcome to the Integrative Health Coach Success Podcast.
Hi, Julia. Thanks for having me.
Yes. Yeah. I'm excited for us to dive into the specific topic that we're going to chat about. But I also am really looking forward to our listeners hearing your story because I think it's a powerful one. So what I would love to do to start is, why don't you share with everybody kind of what you're currently doing? And then I'll have you back it up a little bit and we'll talk about kind of how you got started in the health and wellness space and so on and so forth.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So currently I'm a mother of four, which they're all pretty young. I'm 12 to 5. So pretty busy with being a mother, but when the kids are off at school, I'm diving deep in the world of, healing and healing functionally, integratively, just a well-rounded approach to healing. And I'm taking on clients to help them, at a root cause that we all are striving for in the, integrative world. So that's what I'm doing. I'm doing that from home, and it's been a massive blessing in my life. I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, that's great. And yeah, the whole mom thing, it's like that comes first. And then there's like an umbrella of everything else we do underneath that.
Totally. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So give us a little kind of background of how you got started. I know you were an athlete in college and then kind of things, progressed from there. So if you want to give us a little bit of your backstory, that would be great.
Yeah. So, okay. Backstory. I grew up as an athlete. I pretty much grew up in a gym. So I played basketball and soccer all growing up. My dad and my siblings. So I'm the last of 6 kids. And we all played basketball. Our dad was our coach from a young age. I'm the last of those 6. So I literally grew up in a gym. I was kind of like the little guinea pig. My dad was a coach, and he was a big mentor in our area. And so he would coach different like basketball conferences, and I would be his guinea pig, and he would be teaching me the coaches in the audience, the fundamentals. And I would be that one like demonstrating all the fundamentals. Right. So at a young age, I was like taught, the fundamentals are the most important. The fundamentals, always back to the basics, always back to the basics. And so I grew up, was blessed with a scholarship to attend Boise State University and be on the women's soccer team there, which was such a cool experience. Grateful for that. At the same time, my husband and I were set up on a blind date. He was on the Boise State football team at the time. And kind of the journey of health began there. We both got different degrees. We were hoping to be able to do the nursing program. He wanted to pursue anesthesia. But it was not something that we could do at the time because it was too demanding, being an athlete and doing the nursing program. So I got a degree in health promotions, which is a very educational, preventative. It focuses a lot on behavior change in the health world. I loved it. I think it's a fascinating degree. It's pretty general, basic health degree. And then my husband, he finished his stint he played for Boise State and then a little bit in the NFL. And he kind of came home from that and was like, I don't really know what to do with my life. And a mentor of his said, have you ever thought of anesthesia? And he's like, not really. Anyways, he looked into it and he's like, I think I'm going to go to nursing school and pursue anesthesia. Then I was kind of like, wait, that's kind of what I wanted to do. I kind of like got jealous. And he's like, well, we don't have kids, like come with me. And so we totally like got into the nursing program together, went to nursing school. So I became a registered nurse, worked on the mother baby unit for a few years until my husband got into anesthesia school out in Pennsylvania. So we moved back there. I also got a certification in personal training, and then, was just kind of being the mom, keeping up a little bit with my nursing. I wasn't doing much of it. And then moved back to Idaho. My husband got a job here. And literally when we moved back was when things kind of started falling apart with my health. And things started crumbling. And I went the conventional route for about a year. All to be told, these are the exact words I was told: you are the epitome of health and everyone should strive to be like you. Now, for the majority of people, that would be, a big win, right? But when you feel so terrible, and excuse me if I get emotional, when you feel so terrible, I'm not sure you could hear anything more discouraging, because that means there's no answers, right? No, you're healthy, like nothing, absolutely nothing's wrong with you. And then I think the straw that broke the camel's back was when a neurologist at the time read 4 of my MRIs and was like, kind of laughed at my face and said, nothing's wrong with you. You just need to go get treated for anxiety. And that was when my husband and I both kind of looked at each other and was like, no, like you don't just at the age of 33, just start. Like I literally woke up in Yellowstone and was like numb and tingly all over. Like it just doesn't happen. So I just started digging deep, and I stumbled across one of Dr. Cabral's podcasts, and it literally has changed the course of my life and the way I view health and the way I view healing. And it's been a massive blessing in my life. So grateful for that. Anyway, so that's kind of my story. And I told you earlier that I started listening to Dr. Cabral, and I heard something like a little snippet about his IHP program. And I don't know what inside me just like jumped on that. I didn't know really much about it. I just knew I had to do it. I had to sign up. And that was kind of the start of it. And that was 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago. But since then it's been literally a daily, grind of learning, podcasts, books, other certifications, other courses, just to, and all in the effort to heal myself, honestly. Right. Mm-hmm. But along the way, I don't think anything can prepare you for being a better practitioner than maybe experiencing it yourself. And so would I ever really want to go through that journey again? No. But am I grateful for it? Yeah, I'm grateful for it. It's completely changed my life, and I am not the same person now that I am today than I was 4 years ago. So super grateful.
Yeah, it builds empathy, which is one of the biggest ways that we can connect to other human beings. Like when you understand what desperation you're meeting with on the other side, or what, invalidated experience they may have just had at a doctor's office, right? Like someone looks at you and says, you're the epitome of health. It's no different if you look at a kid who's having a tantrum and you're like, you're okay. You're okay.
I know.
And inside they're like, actually, I'm clearly not okay. Right. Like you're just trying to convince them that they're okay. But it then, you know what I mean? Like, have you done that? You ever seen that done to a kid? And then they actually then tantrum and have even more of a meltdown, right? Because they're like, no, I'm not okay. And having a doctor say to you, you're the epitome of health when you're falling apart. Yeah, go ahead.
Right. And then when you don't know how to quite explain what's going on, it's like that there's nothing more scary, or I felt it very traumatizing, honestly. Like, and, back to your example with the child, like going and throwing them into a room and say, figure it out. Like there's nothing more traumatizing and scary than that, like helping them validate and then talk through it. Right. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like when I finally found the naturopath that I'm working with currently, I've been working with her for 2 years now. She's done a lot of beautiful things for me that I'm extremely grateful for. But I would say that the number one thing that she's done for me that has been invaluable was the first day I walked into her office and she validated everything that I was feeling. Mm-hmm. And that was worth gold at the time. That was a massive stepping stone in the right direction, was just that simple validation. And that is what I pray that I can give to my clients, is sitting with them and being comfortable enough to let them be vulnerable, and me to just validate and say, we're going to get through this, and I'm going to help you get through this. That's incredibly powerful for somebody who is struggling with their health and feels extremely desperate.
Yes. Yeah. And so many people that enter, the functional space have exhausted all options. I mean, we see it all the time with Equal Life. Like, people literally will write in their intake, like, this is my last hope. Like, they use those words. I've tried everything. I no longer I've done everything I possibly could. And sometimes you can read an intake like that and feel like, wow, this is a big responsibility. But I usually take a deep breath and think, like, wow, what an honor that you get to sit on the other side and validate something that somebody probably has been struggling with for years in most often cases. Yeah.
Right. And I think it's important for us as health coaches to know that my brother-in-law actually told me this, because I was really fearful, because I was like, what if I don't get them results? What if I'm terrified of not being able to get them results. And he's like, it's not your responsibility to get them those results, right? Mm-hmm. You're a health coach, you're guiding them, you're directing them. Just like my dad was teaching the fundamentals, you're teaching them those fundamentals to healing. But also know that it's okay to, if you're overwhelmed with it, it's okay to refer, and also don't be okay with the fact that they may have multiple practitioners that they're working with, not, somebody who's helping with energy side of things, the nervous system, the detoxing, like, it's not all on you. Right. And I think when we initially start out, we're like, oh my gosh, it's all on me. It's not. It's not. So take a deep breath and
sometimes you're just the person that looks at them and says, it's okay. This is not all in your head. These are real things that you're experiencing, and you can get through this. Sometimes that's the role, right?
Totally.
There's always the knowledge. But I've said on this podcast before, I love the saying, no one, and Dr. Cabral told me this very early on, 12, 13 years ago, no one will care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Oof,
I will remember it because I was, there was lots of people this was actually when I started personal training, and I was not the best personal trainer. I wasn't like getting people 6-pack abs, but I desperately cared about everybody that walked in that door, and people stayed with me for 5, 6, 7 years simply because of that connection. Right. And we all, especially in today, there is, what is more important than like connection, validation, feeling like someone gives a hoot, right? We just are on autopilot of this nonstop roller coaster. Yeah.
Sometimes it's exactly that. Sometimes it's the way they feel in your presence, right? Mm-hmm. Do they feel hopeful? Do they feel calm and at peace and knowing that you really are, you're genuine in wanting to help them? You may not have all the answers, but sometimes it's best to be like, I don't know, but I'm going to work really hard to, find that answer for you. And I'm going to use my resources and my networking to help you out with that. And that's gone a long way for me to be honest in that sometimes I don't have the answer, but I will help you find it. Right. Well, and I will validate that you're experiencing that. So
yes. And they'll trust you that if you give them an answer, you know the answer. And if you don't know the answer, you're going to work your hardest to find it. Right.
Totally.
And I think that segues into what I think I would love to talk about next, because you said, how they feel in your presence is so important. And what does that mean, right? Like, when you can calm somebody's nervous system, the gift that you give them is, quite frankly, the ability to access healing. Because when we are afraid, when we're desperate, when we feel like, we're alone, all of those emotions, right, weigh so heavily on every part of our nervous system. And when we're in that place, all the protocols in the world, the good food, right, it's only going to do so much. It will do a little bit, right? But I would love for you to dive into, because I think it's something that you definitely have a good amount of knowledge on, but you're also passionate about. and kind of talking about the ways that addressing our nervous system is one of, the more important foundations of healing.
Yeah, absolutely. Something I wish that I would have focused on sooner in my healing journey was this piece of the nervous system, right? I think it's oftentimes overlooked as to how powerful it can be in the healing journey. Note that it is, not can be, that it is in the healing journey. And I took a course by Dr. Beth O'Hara. She has the like Mast Cell 360, but it was specifically on rebooting the nervous system. And I remember, so back up to when I was taking IHP, like one of the things that really stood out to me at the time, Dr. Cabral saying like, you cannot heal in the sympathetic nervous system. We have to be in the parasympathetic, right? So it's always been in the back of my mind. And he talks about his 3 acres a day, right? We're not going 4 hours a day without stopping and putting, yourself back into that parasympathetic, because a lot of times when we are chronically ill, our nervous system gets stuck. Mm-hmm. It literally gets stuck. And then we become stuck for so long that becomes our new normal, right? Mm-hmm. So how do we become unstuck? And even so, like when we're stuck and that becomes our new normal and we're in this box, right? Even if we try to start doing something healthy, like in the right direction, well, sometimes our body's like pulling us back inside that box and be like, this isn't normal. This is new. This is scary. Like, don't do that. It's trying to keep us safe. But so how do we get that nervous system unstuck? I mean, the nervous system is at the interface of the immune system, right? So our immune system cannot be robust if our nervous system is just dragging, right? And it's constantly overfiring and just constantly activated. That's going to drag our immune system down. Just simply like biologically, what happens when our sympathetic nervous system is turned on, right? We all know like things start struggling with our hormones, our digestion, all these things, right? So how do we calm that down? And so this has been a massive piece to helping my clients. So I always start with foundations, those fundamentals I talked about in health and, drainage and detox. But I'm also starting them working on the nervous system from day one, right? They're working with me and putting them on some sort of, I don't know if you will, protocols, but I'm teaching them different activities and exercises that are going to activate the parasympathetic, the vagus nerve, specifically that ventral part of the vagus nerve that is involved in, that happy feeling, that excited feeling, the life is good feeling. That's what we're trying to activate. And then the limbic system. So in the brain, the hypothalamus, the amygdala, things like that, which is connected to, emotions, fear, all this like panic, that kind of stuff. So we need to calm all 3 of these down. Mm-hmm. And so I mentioned Beth O'Hara, this course I took, and she said, some people are doing great at activating the parasympathetic, but they're not doing exercises that are, activating, say, the limbic system, or they're also neglecting specific activities to, vagus nerve signaling. And so I thought that was really, really helpful, learning these 3 different pieces, and that there are different exercises that we can focus on that's going to help activate all 3 of these part of the nervous system to then calm it down enough so that really our immune system can start to increase and we can start fighting some of these bugs, fighting some of these root causes, right? So I think it's super powerful.
Yeah. And that this is typically why we oftentimes see like people will just be kind of trucking along, nothing's wrong. And then some sort of major stressor comes into their life and all of a sudden like Lyme rears its ugly head, or EBV, or because the immune system essentially is like, well, can't do this anymore. And right, like if we were in fight or flight, if we were in the place of some sort of danger, it's more important that you can run from the lion than keep your EBV or Lyme dormant, right? So our body, like you said, it's protecting us, even though the outcome is not desired. Our bodies are still doing what it believes is most safe for us in that moment. And so I think it's so important to even just like explaining it to clients in that context so they understand, okay, actually my body is, because a lot of people in these situations, they can be angry and they can be sad and they can be frustrated. And those are all understandable emotions, but if you can even move them from your body's actually doing what it truly believes will keep you most safe in this moment, there can be at least a little shift of like moments of, okay, thank you, right? Which can help them then, be open to and understand how just simple exercises, I mean, like gargling or just simple things can help them access a place where their body is able, like you said, to fight everything that's causing their symptoms.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I was sorry. Okay.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, if I think about, so when people are like, well, what's your root cause or what are you struggling with? Well, pretty much a little bit of everything, to be honest with you. But I would say,
a little bit of that.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of the Lyme soup, right? Like it comes with it, the parasites, the H. pylori, the mold, all of this. But if I were to say, 4 years ago when the rain barrel exploded on me, right? And then these symptoms manifested. But if I were to really be honest with myself and I start going back into even my childhood, I was very anxious. I was a worried child. So the nervous system dysfunction started at a very young age, right? Mm-hmm. So I think this is massive. I'm teaching these activities to my children because it's going to be crucial and vital, especially going on in the world. But I think it's vital. It's vital to our health and our healing. Yes. So,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because if the nervous system is not firing properly and it is constantly, feeling or, having some sort of like danger type of relationship, there's going to be an impairment on the immune system. And then there will only be so far that you go, right? You either can't heal there or you end up getting sick there because the immune system's not one of the other. You can't get better, or for some people, they just in that position, things come up that weren't necessarily there before. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So when you work with clients and, mm-hmm. You present some of this information, because I'm always curious, and I think it probably depends on the specific types of clients, but I have, some clients that are like, gargle? Like, what are you talking about? Or, like mm-hmm. Saying, or, and then there's some other clients that are like, oh, that sounds so cool. Do you find that a lot of people are super receptive? They understand the benefit of kind of what you're explaining to them when you encourage them to work on their nervous system from the beginning?
I think the majority of them are extremely receptive. Mm-hmm. Yes, I think they are. What I like to do is schedule a session where I'm actually like doing it with them, kind of in this setting, you and I'm teaching them just different techniques of, I worked with Dr. Mark Woolen, who is an expert in generational trauma. I heard him interviewed with Dr. Cabral. I read his book and I just like knew I had to meet with him. So I got on his 7-month wait list and eventually was able to work with him. And man, one of the exercises he taught me is, he told me to do it for 3 months consistently. He told me to do it 6 times a day, which was a lot, but I find myself doing it all the time because I can feel it calming, the nervous system. It's super powerful inner child work of of kind of picturing your current self, say current Brennan, holding like little baby Brennan. So I found a picture of myself at 2 years old that I just like really love. And I picture that, I see that picture and I kind of visualize big Brennan holding baby Brennan, and he had me rocking, and so I'm doing this with my clients. I'm showing them, and we're rocking, baby Brennan. We're saying, I've got you, Brennan, and I love you, and I'm going to hold you until you feel held, seen, and safe. Calming this little infant, because a lot of times our nervous system gets dysregulated at a very young age, and it just sticks with us into adulthood. And so working on calming that nervous system down of that inner child, of that inner Brennan, of that inner Julia is really, really powerful. Different just ways of breathing. I'll teach them, alternate nostril breathing, which I'm sure a lot of us are familiar with, but that's activating the parasympathetic and the vagus nerve. Resonance breathing, just the same amount inhale, the same count inhale is the same exhale, same count. Again, parasympathetic and vagus nerve is what it's activating. Limbic system, a lot of, I don't know if you're, familiar with EFT or emotional freedom technique of tapping, that's going to tap into our limbic system. Also, I'm having a lot of clients look into what resonates with them with maybe the Gupta program or the DNRS or primal trust. These things all tap into actually restructuring our limbic system. So the brain, the hypothalamus, which gets, it regulates a lot in, in our body. And it gets really, it gets like, what am I trying to say? It struggles in the midst of chronic illness. So us needing to restructure it. Yeah, it is. Yeah, sorry. And it's really important. So all these different things I'm working with a client one-on-one and showing them, right? Yeah. And that when I start to show them and start to just kind of explain, education goes a long way. When you're educating a client as to why it's important, and they're like, oh, like, okay, I do need to do this, right? And I do need to do this, daily. And I like to say, like, just with everything in healing, it's the consistency and the persistency that's going to get you results. Like, don't, nobody's perfect, but just try to add a little bit in every single day, right? Every day. And that's what changes things. That's what balances things out. I like to say that the nervous system, those balls that like the pendulum. So like if one ball's out here and you drop it and then the other one falls out of place over here, like the nervous system, say it's out of whack over here, right? But if you just start doing all these things for your nervous system, like if they say this is good, then this much time is going to be better. Like you're going to drop that ball and then it's going to go out of whack over here. So the nervous system needs a slight nudge back into place, like a lot of things in the body, right?
Right.
So just that consistent, persistent approach that's going to help our body get back into equilibrium. It's not only going to help our nervous system get back into equilibrium, but it's also going to increase our immune system and nudge it back up to help fight, right?
Yep.
So, yeah.
Those are all great examples. And it might be the first time that somebody's ever heard, somebody explain to them that there is something that they could do to actually, go back and rewire, how that nervous system gets changed at a very young age. I mean, I'm a big believer that like, you don't have to have mega trauma, I'm talking, significant trauma in your life to have childhood trauma or to have a nervous system that's just wired for sound. Right. And I think, my mom always said like, oh, you've always been a warrior. Like you've worried since you were 2, right? Like was just like that, my natural tendency. Sure, did things happen along the way that maybe, made that more concrete and kind of developed it in my system more? But we kind of also are born how we're born and kind of wired in a specific way there. And so I think a lot of people think like, oh no, I didn't have a traumatic childhood, right? Like I had two parents that loved me. Like there's nothing, but in so many ways, there's just something missing. There's a belief, this childhood belief of maybe it's, I'm not good enough. Maybe it's, I'm not safe. Maybe it's, I'm not loved. I'm not held. And to just go back and Mark Wolin is, gosh, he's incredible to be able to give that whatever year-old child, give that child what it was that they were missing in that moment. Now, as an adult, is extremely healing. And
so, yeah. That's actually, I think, another way that I can help my clients see that trauma, because you're exactly right. Because I think if I looked at my life, just surface level, be like, I don't have any trauma. Like, I grew up in a beautiful home. My parents are my best friends. But then, looking back a little bit deeper, and you're exactly right. Like it may not be this trauma that people, these big traumas that people initially think about, but what Mark taught me was that this could be as simple as this false belief that you have about yourself. That is traumatic, right? And it's not even real. That's not even real. It's false, but that is enough to just completely dysregulate the nervous system, right? So, you're exactly right with that.
Yeah. And can be such a huge shift. And I love your example about kind of how you just like slowly nudge it back into place. And it's not this, if you just do all this stuff, for 5 days, things will magically get better, right?
Because, I wish.
I know. Wouldn't that be nice? Because it's one of those things where you keep chipping away at it. I recently had someone say to me, oh, you're still, the person who I kind of use for a lot of my, internal healing, something similar to kind of what Mark taught you, all of that type of energetic stuff. Oh, you still see her. And I'm like, I do still see her because I'm still alive. And like, there's not like this end point. I think so many people have never done this work, like think you just do it and then you're better. Like, aren't you better yet? Was kind of like how I took it. And I was like, no, because I'm still feeling things in this crazy world. I'm still working on things come up, right? Like you drop one ball and I'm like, oh, I'm good. And then before I know it, there's another one out here. And I'm like, oh God, getting that one back in place. And so
totally.
when you're a conscious feeling human, always being in touch and kind of addressing this stuff, if you're wanting to be quote unquote healthy and well, is so important. And I've said it on podcasts before, there was nothing that changed my health like that, like doing that kind of work, because I could diet and lose weight. I could, take supplements, and I got pregnant, but there was nothing like truly getting to the foundation of my false self-beliefs about myself, right? And changing how that lit my nervous system on fire in any instance, right? Makes you more reactionary. What you take in feels different. And you just show up different in the world and in a much healthier way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So you talked about Mark Wolin, which his book is called It Didn't Start With You.
Yeah.
Right? That's the name of his book. Yes, that's what I thought. Okay. And then who was the other individual that you talked about?
Yeah. So her name's Beth O'Hara.
Oh, okay.
And she's like founder of Mast Cell 360. So she's like specializes in mast cell activation, mold, things like that. But I just thought that course I took was, fascinating and really, really helpful.
Yep.
So, yeah.
That's great. Good. I just wanted to re-highlight those two because we usually do like a podcast that someone likes or a book. If someone's listening and they kind of want to find out more, where are the places that you show up, kind of social media or websites or other places that people can connect with you?
Yeah. So currently the website is a work in progress. So I'm getting on that, but no, just people are finding me on Instagram at Brennan Lau Wellness.
That's
and
great.
As of now, yeah, it's been great.
Good. Well, we so appreciate you coming on the Integrative Health Coach Success podcast and sharing your story and all of your passion about the nervous system. I think that this was an incredibly valuable conversation, and I thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for allowing me. It's fun.
Yeah, our pleasure.
Yeah.
We'll talk soon, Brennan.
Okay, see you, Julia.